And then I had read that you said you always wanted to be an author. So what is your first memory of wanting to be an author? When did it start for you?
Oh man, literally as long as I can remember. I mean, I think I was in kindergarten and I was drawing pictures and making up stories to go along with them. I was a really early reader. I started reading when I was 4. And so ever since then, that has really been the only thing I've ever wanted to do. I have never strayed from that. And I think in college, I thought like, well, I'm going to study journalism to be a journalist, but always in the back of my head, it was, well, until I make enough money as an author, and then I'm getting out of there. That was just always my plan. But I think part of the reason I write middle grade, and I'm sure you can relate to this, is that those middle grade years were really, really foundational for me in terms of stories and books that meant a lot to me. I mean, I just remember like reading the American Girl books on my back porch and those Nancy Drews and just thinking like, all I want to do is write these stories. And I was always really a creative player, like with dolls or stuffed animals, I would like make up stories for them to do. I wasn't as into like, I don't know, picking out outfits for them or whatever. I was more into like the friendship dynamics of Barbie and Stacy and like what was happening to them that day. So I've just been making up stories as long as I can remember. And that's, yeah, it's really just always what I've wanted to do. So I'm happy I get to do it now.
I did that, but with Batman action figures. So I didn't have to worry about what Batman was wearing that day. He's always got the same outfit. It's fine.
Yeah. Exactly.
The Joker's wearing purple. It's settled.
Yeah.
What do you remember? I used to ask people there, what's your 3 favorite books, which is a terribly unfair question. And why would you only pick 3 in a whole world of books? But do you remember some of your most favorite books that really spoke to you and inspired you?
Yeah, my mom was a 5th grade teacher, so we always had a really great library at home. And I also would go to her school library on the weekends and borrow books. She'd let me go into the library and take books, which looking back, I'm like, I'm not sure if that was allowed, but whatever, we did it. But some of the books that meant a lot to me when I was growing up were anything by Sharon Creech. The Wanderer is actually, I feel like one of her lesser known ones. I feel like everyone talks about Walk Two Moons, but The Wanderer by Sharon Creech was really important to me when I was in like 5th, 6th grade. I really loved Out of the Dust by Karen Hess, which is like a historical verse novel about the Dust Bowl. That one was really, really great. And then, I mean, Maniac McGee is just a classic, but I still have that on my shelf and I still reread it. And I think why that one stuck out to me so much was just that I felt like it was so creative. There was no other book like that. And even now, I'm like, I can't even think of what you would compare Maniac McGee to. It is so unique and so deep, even though it's for kids. It's just so deep and complex and meaningful. And I like that the author doesn't underestimate what kids are capable of thinking about. I was always really impressed by books that understood that kids can have really deep, complex thoughts and acknowledged that. I think that was also why I loved The Wanderer. So those were some of my favorites, but I mean, I could go on all day. I loved the Mrs. Pigglewiggle books when I was really little, like 2nd and 3rd grade. Those were some of my favorites. And like I said, the American Girl books. And now I'm actually also rereading the American Girl books because I've been listening to the American Girls podcast where they're like reading each book. And it's these 2 historians going through each book. And it's been really fun to revisit those. But those were some of my standout favorites for sure.
And do you listen to a lot of podcasts, or do you try and get audiobooks in there? Is it a nice, healthy mix of both?
It's a mix of both, but definitely leaning towards podcasts. When it comes to reading, I'm definitely like a physical reader. I don't like e-readers. I'll do an audiobook if I'm like on a walk or on a long drive, but I'd prefer a physical book. Specifically, I'd prefer a paperback. I have really strong feelings about this. But I do listen to a lot of podcasts. Like I listen to podcasts on writing and books and history and politics and like all kinds of random topics.
Well, I assume you have to keep abreast of what's going on with the podcasting overall, with the market, have some idea of what the competition's up to, right?
Yeah, and it just kind of keeps me in the know. Like, I really like Print Run, which is a publishing podcast, because they're always talking about the latest publishing drama, and I cannot keep up with that kind of stuff on Twitter. It all just, like, moves too fast for me. So I like Print Run just kind of keeps me in the know and, like, news podcasts so that I don't have to spend all day watching talking heads talk about the man in charge of our country talking about drinking bleach. And so, yeah, I just like to, it's a good way to just stay in the know and learn in like a short, time efficient way.
Yeah, I've tried to limit my news. I try to read most of it. I still have a weakness occasionally for Pod Save America, but I try to. So it's one episode a week. I don't listen to both. So there's only so informed I can be beyond where I'm just wallowing, as opposed to knowing what's going on in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't have to know, like, you don't have to know everything that's going on in the world either. It's like, sometimes it's just like drinking out of a fire hose.